first thing that hits you about the Canadian Memorial at Vimy Ridge in France is the sheer size of it. It reaches 10 stories into the air, surrounded by about 250 acres of land. Now, much of that area is still littered with shells and explosives from the three-day battle that started early Easter Monday morning, April 9th, 1917.
Vimy was not the greatest of our victories during the war. It was the most costly single day we had, but not the most costly battle, nor was it the most dramatic success. However, it matters a lot that after the war, when we're looking for a site to plant a monument in France, Vimy becomes the site.
The land was granted to Canada by France in 1922. It was a thank you for sacrifices made by Canadians in the First World War, including the victory at the Battle of Vimy Ridge. It marks the site where some historians believe Canada as a nation was born. By the time the memorial was finished, Dean Oliver of the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa says Vimy had become the site of commemoration, remembrance, and meaning. About 6,000 people sailed from Canada to the north of France to see the unveiling in July of 1936. It was the largest Dominion pilgrimage to a war memorial ever. A lot of big companies, along with the federal and provincial governments, gave special leaves for employees to go. In some communities, they had lotteries to help pay the way for former servicemen. Some of the travelers had family who had fought in the Battle of Vimy. Some were wounded soldiers still bearing scars. Others were widows of the nearly 3,600 men killed there. They toured the grave sites of colleagues and loved ones. And the veterans checked out the trenches, now stacked up neatly with sandbags and cleared of water and mud. There were 100,000 people at the site when the memorial was unveiled by King Edward VIII. He proclaimed the Battle of Vimy was, quote, a feat of arms that history will long remember and Canadians can never forget.
So while it was the first victory and a great victory and a victory everybody remembered with pride in the 19-teens, by the middle 1920s it has become symbolic of Canadian nationhood.
The two towering pylons represent Canada and France. Canadian architect and sculptor Walter Allward said the vision of his work came to him in a dream. The Canadian government had commissioned the memorial and they spent about $1.5 million on it. It was a lot of money, especially during the Great Depression. Work was finished more than a decade later. Allward designed the memorial with grieving figures at the bottom, rising up to sculptures representing peace and justice near the top. Carved on the walls are the names of more than 11,000 Canadian soldiers who were killed in France during the First World War and had no known graves.
It's so emotional. I mean, you get there and you see the names of these men who have given up their lives for us.
Fonda Loft is returning to Vimy Ridge this Easter Monday with students from White Oak Secondary School in Oakville. They're one of more than 140 student and cadet groups who will be part of the battle's 95th anniversary. For her, the most touching part of the memorial is the large stone figure at the front, Mother Canada.
The look on her face is so pensive and sad. And she's looking out over the expanse where the trenches are, and you look at that and you think all of the mothers whose children died there or who were injured there or who helped us be free here, all those mothers thinking about their sons, that was huge for me.
The front of the memorial faces the huge fields and rolling hills where the enemy had held their ground for 2 years. Decades later, weather and age wore away at the stone. The memorial underwent a huge restoration earlier this century in time for the 90th anniversary. I went there last June during a family vacation. A small group carrying flags and flowers noticed our Canadian pins and asked that we join them for a ceremony of their own at the memorial. It was a quiet but unforgettable experience. Now, Dave Robinson is looking forward to the impact Monday's 95th anniversary will have on the 4,000 young Canadians he's helping to lead there.
If you remember how you felt the first time you felt Vimy Ridge, I'll get that feeling 4,000 times on April 9th, and that's going to happen to you. You'll remember everything you felt, but now through their eyes.
Just ahead, the true lessons from the Battle of Vimy Ridge.
At some point on this tour, every child on the tour has that I get it moment where something happens to them where they all of a sudden they understand their place in the world, their place in Canada. They just get it.